The moon hung low over the storm-lashed seas of Shipbreaker Bay, a silver coin half-spent, casting broken shards of light across the wet sand. Beneath the looming black cliffs of Storm's End, fires fluttered like dying embers along two sprawling camps, one in Baratheon blue, the other in Baratheon gold. Between them, a ragged strip of no-man's land glistened with seawater and suspicion. Yet on this night, it was neither sword's edge nor whispered prayer that mattered, but the quiet footfalls of Davos Seaworth guiding his king into the dark. Stannis Baratheon moved like an iron automaton, cloak snapped by the wind, jaw locked. Each step toward his brother's lines was a wound to his pride, but necessity pulled harder than the old bitterness ever could. Davos flanked him, lantern held low, its glimmer swallowed by the gale. Behind them strode 70 men of the Queen's men, sullen knights sworn to the fiery heart of R'hllor. Yet even they were muted, cowed by the magnitude of what must be done. Ahead, Renly's pavilion rose tall, silken green banners dancing around antlers of polished bronze. Laughter spilled from its mouth, rich with wine and confidence, as if the night itself knelt to King Renly's boundless charm. It grated Stannis like salt in an open cut. He had starved at Storm's End, bled at Dragonstone, suffered every slight the realm could conjure, while Renly had feasted, japed, and won hearts with a smile. And now Stannis must beg him to behave like a true Baratheon, to face the Lannisters not as rivals but as brothers. A cloaked shape broke from the green camp and hurried toward them across the slick ground. Ser Loras Tyrell shone even in Torch's half-light, plate gilt like sunrise. Tyrell rose etched upon his breast. His gauntlets dripped rain. His eyes never left Stannis. Yet when he reached striking distance, he doffed helm and bowed. Lord Stannis. His voice carried the courtesy Renly demanded of his court, though the chill in it could have frozen the bay. His grace awaits. About time, Stannis growled. Inside the pavilion, heat swirled from braziers. Candles burned in golden candelabras shaped as leaping stags. Carpets from Volantis muted the squelch of wet boots. Renly Baratheon sat at a long maple table, legs crossed, raven-black hair curling damply about his brow, a goblet of arbor red balanced in graceful fingers. He looked every inch the merry monarch, until his green eyes found his elder brother. Then the levity fled and something harder surfaced. Silence swelled, broken only by rain-battering silk. At last Renly stood, pulled his cloak free, and strode forward. He halted 2 paces away from Stannis, near enough that the elder could see his own reflection in the polished silver of the stag antler brooch. "You asked for parley, brother," Renly said. "So here we are. Speak your piece." Davos edged aside as Stannis inhaled, chest straining his breastplate. "The Iron Throne is ours by right," he began, voice a rasp of taut rope. "Robert's sons are bastards of incest. The realm needs Baratheon steel and will have it. It could have that steel united or divided. I would see it united." Renly's brow arched. "United behind whom? Behind you, who would burn the 7 and drown us all in smoke. Or behind me, who is loved by every lord south of the neck." "Loved?" Stannis echoed, the word sour. "A king is not a jester to court applause, Renly. We are Baratheons. Ours is the fury. When dragons came, we broke their line at Summerhall. When Aerys turned mad, Robert shattered him upon the trident. And when the Lannisters murdered our brother's heirs, we should have answered as one. Yet you put on a crown of gold roses and played at pageantry while Cersei sharpened her claws." Renly's jaw clenched, but he spread his hands. "And what of your red witch, Stannis? You offer a new god to the Stormlands, a hungry god demanding fire and blood. I will not trade one tyrant's madness for another's zealotry." Behind Stannis, Lady Melisandre stepped forward, copper hair gleaming where torchlight kissed it, ruby at her throat pulsing. "The Lord of Light welcomes all who would serve," she purred, "even kings who wear crowns of green." Renly snorted. "Tell your sorceress to stay her tongue." But his eyes lingered on the ruby, uneasy, before he looked again at Stannis. The realm will not follow a fanatic. It will follow me. And if it followed neither? Davos interjected quietly. Both princes turned to him, surprised. The Onion Knight swallowed. Your graces, forgive me, but the song the small folk sing is not of kings but of war. Winter is here. The cold bites deep. The Lannisters bleed the riverlands, and from the north ride tales of dead men walking. You speak of who should wear a crown. Yet crowns won't matter if King's Landing burns and half the realm lies frozen. United, the stag might still stand. Apart, it will fall. A hush followed, pregnant and uneasy. Renly regarded Davos with an intensity that belied his easy smile. Then, slowly, he returned to the table, poured 2 cups of wine, and handed one to Stannis. Very well, he said at last. Let us talk of unity, brother. But understand, my bannermen will not kneel to your witch, nor will they cast aside the 7. Find a bridge that spans that gulf, and I will march with you to King's Landing. Stannis drank, face unreadable. Then let us build that bridge, stone by stone, as Storm's End itself was built. By dawn, the parley became treaty. Baratheon banners intermingled upon the dunes. Renly's crowned stag within a field of Tyrell green, Stannis's fiery heart surmounted by a stag rampant. Maesters scurried, ink froze in copper pots, and both kings affixed seals while their lords watched. Brienne of Tarth glowered at Ser Geard Morrigan across a map of the Blackwater. Ser Loras argued battering ram placements with Ser Garland. Davos negotiated supply lines with Randall Tarley. It felt, to those who had prayed for this moment, as if a great fissure in the realm had miraculously closed. Yet beneath the surface old grudges stirred. The Queen's men eyed Renly's Rainbow Guard with disdain. Renly's squires mocked the red priests behind cupped hands. And in the dim hours after the seal was set, Melisandre stood upon the battlements of Storm's End, staring not east toward the sunrise, but west into deepening shadow. The night is dark and full of terrors, she whispered, ruby throbbing like a heartbeat, and unity alone cannot conjure dawn. As weeks unrolled, the 2 armies fused into a singular beast, footsore, quarrelsome, but formidable. 20,000 of Renly's Reachmen merged with 15,000 Stormlanders sworn to Stannis. Smiths at Haystack Hall forged new badges. Twin stags rampant over a blazing heart, ringed by antlers of green. Ships ferried grain from Highgarden. Blacksmiths in Tarth hammered round shields emblazoned with the Baratheon crown. Even the Red Wine fleet, enticed by Renly's charm and Brienne's solemn oath, crept north along the coast to join Stannis's ragtag galleys. On the field outside Bitterbridge, where meadowlarks once sang, the combined host drilled. Stannis rode the lines with grim satisfaction, inspecting pikes lengthened to break Lannister cavalry charges. Renly followed, offering jokes that filled the air with laughter. Together they were hammer and song, one relentless, the other resplendent. And the men began to believe. Melisandre watched from the hilltops each dusk, ruby glowing brighter as the host's campfires multiplied. She saw the tales whispered intense. A shade birthed in smoke and flame, Renly's doom foretold. Yet here Renly stood, alive, forging bonds of brotherhood. It gnawed at prophecy. What is dead may never die so long as the fires burn. She turned her gaze to the north and felt a cold wind blow, colder, perhaps, than any lord's petty feud. When the jackdaw leaves turned smoky red, ravens brought dire news. Tywin Lannister marched east from Harrenhal with 35,000 men, while King Joffrey's garrison swelled with sellswords fresh purchased by Lord Baelish. Across the narrow sea, rumor claimed Daenerys Targaryen had dragons. In the north, Robb Stark shattered Lannister columns at Oxcross. The realm trembled like glass beneath a smith's hammer. Stannis convened war council inside his brother's grand pavilion. A rough map of the Blackwater sprawled across the table, candles guttering atop driftwood stumps. "We strike before Tywin can reinforce," Stannis declared. "Our fleet will seal the mouth of the Blackwater. Our knights seize the King's Road, and our infantry push through the mud gate. With Renly's heavy horse at the vanguard, we break their line upon the city walls. Then I, the rightful king, shall sit the Iron Throne, and my brother shall rule beside me." Renly smirked. "A crown shared is a crown halved, brother. But have it your way. After, we'll host a tourney to celebrate. A Baratheon on the throne again. What better cause?" At that, Ser Davos cleared his throat. "The Blackwater is more than tide and mud, my lords. The wildfire stores. Old wives' tales," said Ser Loras, waving him off. "The Alchemists' Guild boasts, but they have scant jars and fewer wits. Even a handful could scald half a fleet," Davos persisted. "I've smuggled stranger cargo than rumors. We must treat the risk as real." Renly's smile faded. He looked to Stannis, who considered a long beat, then nodded curtly to Davos. "See to it. Find proof. If wildfire waits beneath the city walls, I will not sail my men into green hellfire blind." "Your Grace," Davos said, bowing out. Melisandre's eyes followed him, glowing ember bright. When the council adjourned, she approached Stannis, voice low. "Shadows stir in the capital. Wildfire will burn, yes, but truer flames lie within men's hearts, and hearts may be snuffed out by a single whisper of darkness." Stannis met her gaze with weary steel. "No more talk of shadows, my lady. I have chosen another path. Even paths paved in light end in night without the Lord's favor." He turned from her, unwilling to answer. King's Road dust rose beneath the hooves of 2,500 Baratheon knights, each in plate freshly polished, each brandishing the Crown Stag standard. At their front rode Renly, antler helm gleaming like dawn, serpentine grin carved on his lips. Beside him, Brienne bore his banner. Ser Garland, the Copper Warrior, rode on the flank. Down the column marched Stormlanders gripping pikes, Reachmen archers with yew bows, and at the rear rumbled the siege line, great rams of oak-bound iron, trebuchets of pine, towers of summer rob. Above, circling gulls shrieked, heralding war. Ahead, the Blackwater rush snaked, murky and wide. King's Landing's dusty red walls thrust up beyond, squat beneath the sprawling red keep. From afar it appeared serene, almost beautiful beneath autumn haze. Closer, the stench of tanneries and middens stained the wind. On the south bank opposite the Mudgate, Stannis' fleet assembled. Onion-hulled cogs, Stormlander galleys, red wine dramens with carved grapes, and sleek Lyseni hires bristling with scorpions. Sailcloth snapped. Drums thundered. Sailors from the stepstones sang in brazen Valyrian, drowning out the murmured prayers of Queen's men. Renly dismounted and clapped Stannis on the shoulder. "For once, dear brother, you command a force worthy of song. Let us make it a melody the realm sings for 1,000 years." Stannis' expression barely shifted. "Save your breath for battle." Renly laughed and called for his squires. That night, tents blossomed across the south bank like mushrooms after rain. Torches winked along the water. From the distant walls floated the shrill sound of bells. Inside the royal command tent, an amalgam of green silk and red canvas, the Baratheon brothers dined on hard bread and salt beef, poring over scouts' reports while Ser Courtenay Penrose scratched corrections onto parchment. Plans ossified. At dawn, Davos would guide a half-dozen black-sail skiffs upriver, seeking the fabled chain rumored to bar escape. Renly's foot would storm the gates of the gods with rams. Stannis' spearmen would press the mud gate. Reachmen archers would cover from the tourney grounds. Once breaches opened, Renly's heavy horse would pour through, splitting the city in three. Victory was written in their faces, yet unease lingered like smoke. Twice Melisandre had offered to birth her shadows. Twice Stannis refused. In the quiet hours, she watched the river, searching its obsidian surface for prophecy's reflection. She saw only moonlight and the faint green glow of distant wildfire caches flickering beneath the city, waiting. The last night before battle, Renly could not sleep. He paced outside his pavilion until Brienne joined him. "If we win," he mused, "the realm might finally know peace. Cities rebuilt, harvests shipped north, perhaps even dragons tamed to our cause, should rumor prove true." Brienne's blue eyes caught the starlight. "And if we lose?" Then at least we lose together, as brothers should have from the start." His smile softened. "When I was a boy, I followed Stannis everywhere, though he scarcely noticed. All I wanted was his acknowledgement. Now I have it, but I wonder if a war was worth the price." Brienne's gauntlet closed over his bracer. "Ours is the fight worth winning, my king. You have given these men hope." "Hope," Renly exhaled, breath misting. "Let us pray hope survives the dawn." Morning came pale and windless, as though the gods themselves held their breath. Across the Blackwater, siege towers lurched forward, oil-soaked hides glistening. Rams thudded, arrows arced like dark rain, falling upon the walls in a hiss of splinters and shouts. Knights of the Golden Company, hired by Queen Cersei's purse, manned battlements, though many quailed at the enormity of the opposing host. Stannis rode the line, shouting commands. Renly, astride the apple-green courser Allspice, led the first wave toward the Gate of the Gods. Trumpets sounded, hoofs thundered, dust exploded as the armored tide crashed against stone. On the river, Davos's skiffs slipped through early mist. He saw no chain, only a wide expanse of water, empty save for Lannister ferries burning under Arrow's hail. Relief quickened his pulse. Yet as sun climbed, its light glinted off iron fixtures half submerged near the north bank. A chain, after all, massive links dark with rust, lurking unseen until too late. His heart plummeted. Turning, he spied barrels bobbing in the current, each painted sickly green. Wildfire, scores of them, drifting toward the clustered hulls of Stannis's fleet like silent predators. A solitary arrow, set ablaze by some nameless cell sail atop the walls, arced lazily downward, toward a floating barrel. Davos's shout was drowned in the roar. Green erupted. An immense blossom of emerald fire engulfed the river. Ship masts splintered like twigs. Sailors became shadows wreathed in flame before vanishing in shrieks. The blast hurled Davos's skiff sideways. He slammed into gunwale, dazed, as ringing filled his ears. When he rose, half the fleet was a maelstrom of burning pitch and twisted timbers. On land, men looked up, horror smearing hope. Renly's charge faltered as Wildfire's green glare painted helms surreal. Somewhere, Melisandre watched, ruby blazing, lips parted in awe of divinity's unpredictable fury. Stannis barked orders to regroup, but panic spread faster than commands. The chain rose, hauled taut by winches within the Tower of the Hand, sealing the river. Trapped ships collided with it, cracked, sank. Flaming wreckage drifted down current, ash raining upon both armies. Yet within chaos, Davos found clarity. If the Wildfire barrels upriver were spent, only the stores near the city remained. And only one path remained into King's Landing, the shattered mud gate, battered but unbroken amid the carnage. Braving arrow storm and boiling oil, he hauled himself onto a half-submerged rampart, torch in hand. Above the gate, Ser Balon Swan commanded a mixed knot of Lannister men-at-arms. They cheered the Wildfire, certain victory theirs, until a sizzle whispered beneath their feet. Smoke curled through cracks. Then the gatehouse floor shuddered. Davos had set the last of Stannis's powder kegs ablaze. The explosion cracked the mud gate like a rotten tooth. Stone vomited outward. Defenders tumbled, screaming. Before dust settled, Renly's vanguard surged forward. Brienne, roaring, led the first over mangled corpses. Behind, Stormlander pikemen planted spears into gaps, opening a corridor. Renly followed, antler helm lost, hair whipped with blood. He carved through Sel's words like wind through wheat, laughter gone, eyes aflame. Stannis pushed men on, voice hoarse. "For Robert, for the realm." And the realm answered. Queen's men fought beside Tyrell halberdiers, onion knights with rose-sigilled bowmen. They pressed into King's Landing while Wildfire still raged upon the river, and smoke turned day to grim twilight. Small folk fled, trampled by clashing knights. Bells tolled madly. In the chaos, Cersei Lannister herded Tommen toward Maegor's holdfast. Joffrey quailed, abandoning his post upon the battlements and scampering after his mother, gold cloak flapping like a frightened bird. Their desertion shattered defender morale. When the Red Keep's gates closed, many Lannister men threw down arms, pleading quarter. Yet still the fighting dragged. Atop Aegon's high hill, gold cloaks turned cloaks of red over the injured, shedding loyalties faster than banners burned. It was here, beneath the ramp of the Great September of Baelor, that Renly and Stannis finally stood shoulder to shoulder against Ser Boros Blunt and the dwindling Kingsguard. Renly took a shallow cut across the cheek. Stannis's pauldron bore a dent from Meryn Trant's Morning Star. But together they held, and when Ser Boros yielded, the city's heart yielded with him. Trumpets blared. Davos, smeared with soot, staggered into the square, flanked by charred survivors. He saw the Baratheon brothers clasp forearms amid broken marble and falling ash, and felt a surge of something like faith. Night fell upon victory. Fires still smoldered in Flea Bottom, but the worst of the blaze was contained. The Blackwater reeked of burnt flesh and tar. Yet within the Red Keep, the Iron Throne waited. Stannis entered first, mail clinking in the haunted stillness. Torchlight danced off blades forged into the ancient seat. The sword points seemed to grasp for his blood. Renly followed, helm under arm, weary but erect. Stannis approached the throne, rested calloused fingers upon a twisted blade, and turned. "I would have you sit with me, brother. 2 stags, 1 throne, yet the same heart for the realm." Renly exhaled. "A single king, Stannis. The realm can stomach no councils of equals. You are elder and by rights Robert's heir. I acknowledge that." He knelt, armor clanking, antler helm brushing marble. "But remember, hearts win what swords cannot. Rule justly, and these 7 kingdoms might heal." Stannis placed a gauntlet hand upon his brother's shoulder, silent acknowledgement of debts both owed and forgiven. Then he sat, iron scraped steel pricking his thigh, a reminder of what rule costs. Melisandre stepped forth, ruby glowing fierce, yet Stannis raised a hand. "No fires tonight," he murmured. "Let the realm see dawn with its own eyes." Outside the city, Tywin Lannister's host had halted upon news of the wildfire disaster. Scouts brought tales of double-stag banners atop the Red Keep, of Joffrey fled to Casterly Rock, of Cersei besieged in Maegor's Holdfast. In his war tent, Tywin clenched teeth until jaw trembled. The game had changed overnight. Baratheon unity, once an improbable rumor, now ruled the capital. He would not march on King's Landing yet. Instead, he turned north, to break the young wolf before a Baratheon crown and Stark wolf joined next. War had grown Hydra heads. Tywin meant to sever them one by one. But as he marched, ravens flew from the Eyrie, from Riverrun, from Sunspear. Lords both great and petty read the wax-sealed letters and weighed new alliances. Some saw in Stannis a stern father for a realm of squabbling children. Others saw in Renly the smile that could soothe old wounds. Few, however, doubted that together the Baratheon brothers had changed the very course of history. In Dragonstone's stone egg chambers, Melisandre of Asshai knelt before her night fire and cast powders that made the flames leap blue. Within the flicker, she saw shadows. A silver-gold girl among dragons, a boy crowned in the north, a king on a throne of swords with a brother beside him. But behind them towered darkness alive with unliving eyes. She whispered prayers older than language, pleading for light to hold against the night, and the ruby at her throat answered, pulsing like a dying star. For though the stag had united, the long winter had only just begun. Weeks slipped into months. King Stannis I Baratheon held councils in the Tower of the Hand. Renly seated at his right, Ser Davos elevated to Lord of the Blackwater for valor. Grain flowed from the Reach into starving streets. Bridges were rebuilt. The faith militant, placated by Renly's promise to restore their privileges, kept peace among sparring sections. Edicts re-established royal justice, outlawing forced royal loans that had enriched Littlefinger. Baelish himself fled, rumored to be plotting in Lys. In the north, Robb Stark received envoys offering recognition of northern independence in exchange for war upon the Lannisters. Robb, weary yet wary, summoned his bannermen. Some urged alliance. Others, vengeance for Ned Stark, whose bones had yet to cross the neck. The king in the North's choice would shape winters to come. On Dragonstone, Melisandre tended ancient manuscripts, searching for signs. Stannis' refusal to burn the statues of the Seven had dimmed R'hlloreth's favor, she feared. Yet she saw in Renly's laughter a flame all its own, captivating courtiers more surely than any prayer. Perhaps, she mused, the Lord of Light wielded many torches. But deep beyond the wall, blue shadows stirred beneath aurora skies. Cold winds bore whispers south, of a large-eyed horn blasts, of men returning from ranging with skin white as ice. And one autumn dusk, as ravens swirled over the red keep, a single feather of snow drifted upon the throne room's ancient floor. King Stannis watched it melt upon his mailed hand, mind turning northward. Renly saw his brother's gaze and, in his heart, knew fresh battle loomed. One crowns and wildfire would not win. Yet for now, against the backdrop of crumbled walls and mending hearts, two brothers stood united. Their shadows stretched long across the hall, cast by torches newly lit, merging into one upon the Iron Throne. Proof that even in Westeros, sometimes fury could yield to fellowship, and the darkest waters could still reflect the dawn. The snowflake vanished upon Stannis' gauntlet almost before he felt its chill, leaving only a glisten that caught the torch glow. For a breath he remained motionless on the steps of the Tower of the Hand, eyes fixed on the tiny droplet as though its existence were a cipher the gods expected him to solve. Then the door behind him creaked and the droplet slid away, lost amid thousand older stains of rain, sweat, and wildfire smoke. Renly emerged, cloak of deep green slung carelessly across one shoulder, the other shoulder bare save for a leather jerkin dashed with dried blood and gilt in places where sword edge had kissed but not bitten. He leaned against the lintel, watching his brother's profile. "You gave the order to ration wood," Renly said at length. "Half the city freezes already. Half the city starved under the Lannisters," Stannis answered without turning. "They will survive the cold." Renly's breath puffed white. "There is surviving and there is living. Men who merely survive grow soon to resent their savior." Stannis snorted. "When have you grown a taste for hard policy? You were the stag who skipped on painted meadows." "I spent a summer learning gardens bloom only after the dung is carted away," Renly replied. "And I have been knee-deep in dung since we took the city." He pushed from the door, stepped beside Stannis, and together they looked down the wide marble steps to the courtyard below. Lanterns bobbed like golden beetles around scaffolds where masons patched shell-scarred walls. Farther out, Flea Bottom lay hushed beneath its thin white dusting, as if the snow had come solely to mask the city's sins. "I ask a small mercy. Let us loosen the ration for bakers, so they may keep their ovens glowing through the night. The smell of bread will do more for morale than 1,000 sermons." Stannis' jaw flexed. "Bread costs flour. Do you know our granaries? I know what Tyrell wagons bring each dawn." Renly met the hard glare with one of his own, a glint of stubborn pride beneath the easy charm. "The reach is fertile still. Allow me to petition Lord Mace for double shipments until spring. He will leap at the chance to secure favor." That Mace Tyrell would leap was inarguable. Whether that favor should be granted so cheaply was another question. Stannis ground his teeth, the splintery taste of cedar lingering from the wildfire smoke that still haunted every corridor. "Do it," he said at last, "but get his promise in writing and secure hostages." "I'll not rely on soft words alone." Renly exhaled, a small crest of fog. "I will ask Sarella and Eleanor to winter here. Better his son." Stannis turned. "Willis is pillar of Highgarden. The father will not risk him. Willis cannot ride far." Renly's lips parted in faint chagrin. "Stannis, you ask me to drag a lame man across frost-bitten roads midwinter. Then you'll carry him," Stannis said, and strode back inside, cloak snapping behind like a scolded banner. The next morning, Davos Seaworth stood ankle-deep in Black River muck where the Greenblood joined the Blackwater, overseeing salvage of wrecked hulls. A spatter of snowflakes swirled above the water, melting on contact. Men cursed as they hauled charred spars ashore to strip nails and salvage planking. The smell of tar still mingled with rot, a scent Davos feared he might take to his grave. He watched a bundle of human bones slide from a shattered foremast, ribs still fused to scorched mail. The river had boiled men alive, yet the city feasted on victory songs. He walked the line of workers until he found Salladhor Saan, the Lyseni pirate lord swaddled in a sealskin cloak, rings flashing. "Your debt ledger grows thin, my old friend," the pirate said by way of greeting, gesturing with a jeweled hand toward the wreckage. "You owe me triple price for every mast lost." "We owe you what the king decrees," Davos corrected. His voice rasped like oars on frost-stiff tholes. "And the king decrees patience." "Patience? I am a man of swift appetites." "I," Davos agreed, "but a poor man of swift appetites is soon a dead one. Wait, we'll rebuild. Then your galleys will reap richer prizes than ever before." Salladhor clicked his tongue. "I stay because I like you, Onion Knight, and because Renly's Tyrells feed me sweet wines. But if your Iron King delays, Lys calls me home." "Give me a moon's turn," Davos said. "And if Dragonstone gold has not filled your coffers, I'll give you my own seal ring as pledge." He found himself fingering the pouch where his finger bones once rattled before Melisandre burned them away. A cold wind passed, and he withdrew his hand. Salladhor studied him, one eyebrow lifted like a sail half-hoisted. "1 moon," he said at last. "Then I shall collect rings, bones, or both." Within the Red Keep's library, lit only by thin beams of winter sun and the sleepy glow of braziers, Maester Pylus scrawled raven messages while Samwell Tarly, fresh-faced from the wall, dispatched south by Lord Commander Mormont bearing tidings, hovered uncertainly, scroll in hand. Sam's cheeks still blushed round from the dash south, and the stale damp of snowbound forests clung to his cloak. "These are no mere rumors," Sam stammered. Sir, we lost men to them, and the Ranger Jafer Flowers came back wrong." He swallowed. "Whatever strength the wall once had, it dwindles by the hour." Pylus dipped his quill. "King Stannis must weigh such claims carefully. Southern lords will call tales of dead men fancy." "I have dragonglass," Sam blurted. "Knives and arrowheads. They shatter the others. I saw it." He laid the pouch on the table. Black, oily shards spilled across vellum. Maester Pylus's eyes narrowed, and he selected one with silver tongs, setting it under a lens. "Obsidian."
"Dragonglasses," Sam insisted.
"The old god's weapon." Behind him, Shireen Baratheon's shadow flitted past the archway, grayscale-scarred hand hovering over a stack of legends older than Valyria. The girl loved strange tales. Sam half expected her to burst forth with questions. Instead, she lingered, silent, listening. Pylus sealed a parchment. "His Grace will want to hear." He gestured Sam toward the door. "Go on. Davos Seaworth holds audience this afternoon. Show him." Sam hesitated, then gathered the shards. "Thank you." As the door closed, Shireen slipped into the library proper, eyes luminous. The prince that was promised, the queen that was foretold. She spoke to herself, a habit when father and tutor-minded tutors left her mind to wander. 7 are 1 and 1 is 7. She stroked the obsidian reading stone on her necklace. A flurry of ravens outside startled her, yet their cause only made her smile. Ravens loved secrets. In Riverrun's Great Hall, Robb Stark read the Baratheon letter for a third time while Great Jon Umber paced like a caged bear. Grey wind lay at Robb's feet, head lifted, yellow eyes tracking each stomping turn of the Umber boots. "They offer us independence in all but name," Robb murmured. "No Stark has called himself king south of the neck since Torrhen knelt. And see how well kneeling served him." Great Jon spat onto the rushes. "Southrons butchered Ned Stark on a lie. Why should we trust his killer's kin?" "The killers sit in Casterly Rock," Robb reminded. "Baratheon swords toppled the Lannisters. Perhaps we trade vengeance for peace." Catelyn Stark, summoned at dawn, stood by a narrow window. Snow drifted onto the courtyard where Hoster Tully's bier rested under guard. "Peace buys children's futures," she said, "but only if the promise holds. Stannis is iron yet brittle. Renly is supple yet slithers. Tie independence to two such men and hope they balance." Robb set the letter down. "They ask hostages. One of my sisters. Sansa is lost if she lives. Arya vanished. They will accept Bran or Rickon, though." His voice caught upon those names. Gracjan's face purpled. "Never hand wolves to stags." "I will not," Robb agreed. "Yet nor can we fight every crown alone. We must decide whether to march south before winter locks the passes." Grey Wind's growl echoed the tension. Catelyn stepped forward. "Let us send envoys first. Test their words. If the Baratheon alliance is true, Tywin Lannister will find himself flanked. And if their unity dissolves, we will know soon enough." Robb nodded, shoulders heavy beneath wolf pelt mantle. "Mother, you shall go. Take Ser Brynden, Lord Meege, and Septon Seagard. Speak for me." Greatjon grumbled but bowed. The letters were sealed anew, and banners readied. In the rookery that night a great storm of wings rose, bearing decisions that would shape thrones like smiths shape steel. Atop the Red Keep's Maiden's Tower, Melisandre knelt in a circle of carved driftwood hearts, flames licking their edges. Her eyes were closed, face angled to stars veiled in high freezing mist. The ruby at her throat pulsed bright as furnace coal. She whispered names: Valyrian, Rloric, shapes of power older than men of the dawn. The flames answered, swaying inward as though drawn to her breath. She saw shadows swirling over white fields, a stag crowned in ice cut down by a sword of sorrow. She saw a wolf lost beneath waves of blue flame, and a dragon screaming in chains of jade. In one vision, Renly stood on a wall of snow, laughter frozen on his lips before shattering like glass. In another, Stannis knelt before a burning tree that bled rubies. Prophecy forked like river deltas. Each branch ended in darkness unless one ember caught. When she opened her eyes, dawn tinged the east. She rose, garments smelling of cedar resin. Footsteps approached, light, earnest. Shireen peered around the parapet, eyes brimming with questions. "My lady," the girl whispered, "is it true obsidian kills the cold ones?" Melisandre smiled, gentle as winter sun. "Fire kills them best, sweet princess, but obsidian remembers fire. It is dragonglass, born of the world's heart. Keep a peace close, and fear not the night." Shireen's lips parted. "May I have one?" Melisandre pressed a black shard into her palm. "Guard it well." Below, bells told the first hour. Melisandre slipped away in swirling red silk, leaving Shireen alone with a stone the color of secrets. The small council convened before noon in the solar overlooking the river. Stannis presided rigidly. Renly lounged sideways in his chair, legs crossed at the ankle. Davos stood near the hearth. Also present, Ser Loras Tyrell, gloved hands on the back of Renly's seat. Ser Courtenay Penrose, newly fashioned Lord Admiral, with charts of shipwright demands. Grand Maester Gorman replacing Pycelle, his round spectacles fogged by steam from a kettle, and Varys released from cells under strict watch. The eunuch wore simple gray robes, every ring and perfume confiscated, yet his smile remained evergreen. Stannis unrolled a parchment. News from Riverrun. The king in the north will send envoys under a peace banner. He passed the letter to Davos. They seek proof of good faith. Renly sipped from a silver goblet. Then we present it. Offer Lord Edmure command of a new river guard. Restore Tully title. The Starks love oaths carved in stone. Words are wind, Stannis said. But stones crush bones. His gaze found Varys. What of the queen? Cersei still barricades Maegor's holdfast, Varys replied smoothly. Her personal guard grows lean. Food is rationed to the boy king and 2 kettle black brothers. The rest she starves. Time will pry her out, Davos said. Time breeds rats, Renly countered. The small folk gossip that the lioness devours her own. Let them see justice instead. He drummed fingers. Send Brienne and Loras to breach the holdfast. Take Cersei alive, try her in the square. The realm loves spectacle. Stannis hesitated, eyeing the Tyrell knight. Bloodshed inside the keep risks my daughter. Then we extract the boy king and queen mother only, Renly said. The child may yet serve as hostage in case the rock bears its fangs. Tom Joffrey, Grand Maester Gorman stammered, pushing glasses. His grace retains, some claim. Bastard of incest, Stannis snapped. His claim is ashes. He studied the map. Renly, take command of the extraction. No wildfire near Magers. The stores were cleared, but still, Renly's grin flashed. As you command, elder brother. 2 days later, dawn painted the sky waxy blue when Brienne scaled a postern using a rope of braided silk, her mailed fingers numb with frost. Behind her followed Ser Loras, all grace despite plate. They crept along silent corridors, past alcoves where lion mosaics sneered. Moonlight through arrow slits striped their path. In the nursery hallway they met resistance. Ser Osmond Kettleblack, sword half-drawn. Brienne raised a gauntlet, whispering, "In the king's name, submit." Osmond smirked. "Who's king?" The sword slid free. Loras came on like sunlight. Parry thrust riposte in a blur. Steel rang, sparks kissed tapestries. Brienne circled, shield ready. Osmond feinted, kicked a fallen stool, tried to weave between them. Too late. Loras's blade pierced chain at the shoulder, slid clean through scapula. The man gasped, knees buckling. Brienne caught him, eased him down, whispered a prayer to the seven for the man who had mocked them. Beyond the door, a child whimpered. She sheathed Oathkeeper, nudged door ajar. Tommen Baratheon lay shivering under thick blankets, Ser Meryn standing over him white-faced. The Kingsguard's sword rattled against marble. Brienne raised a finger to her lips.
No harm.
She crossed the room, set a gentle hand on the boy's hair. "We'll take you to your uncle's." Meryn's eyes shifted between her and Loras. Finally he knelt, sword clattering. "I swore to protect the princes." "Protect him still," Loras said, voice soft. "Just to another throne." Cersei's capture proved simpler. Cornered in her solar with one remaining guard, she hurled a wine jug, shattering on Loras's pauldron, splashing red across gold. "You think you've won?" she hissed as Brienne clasped irons about her wrists. "Stags are prey for lions." "Not this night," Brienne answered. They marched the prisoners through moon-streaked corridors to the courtyard, where Renly awaited on horseback, antler helm shadowing his eyes. Cersei spat at him. The glob froze before hitting ground. Tommen wept, clutching Ser Meryn's hand. Renly raised a lantern. "Bind her," he said to the guards. "Wrap the boy in furs. He rides with me." Cersei's shrieks chased them through the gate, echoing against frost-silvered stones. By the time Renly returned to the throne room, Stannis was awake, pacing beneath stained glass. The sight of Cersei in shackles drew no gloat from him. He merely nodded. "Well done." To Tommen he stooped, expression softening. "You're safe now." The boy's tear-streaked cheeks trembled. "Where's my mother? Where's Ser Uncle Jaime?" "Ser Jaime rides at war," Stannis said. "Your mother faces judgment." He lifted the boy's chin. "Listen to me. You bear no blame. Rest, and later we'll speak of your future." Cersei spat dried blood. "You want to raise him as hostage. He is king by right." "His right is false," Stannis replied, "but his life is his own." Renly lounged on the steps of the dais, watching. "Shall I arrange the trial, brother?" "On the morrow," Stannis said. "Feed her. Let her sleep in a proper cell." He looked to Davos. "Escort them." Davos bowed, though Cersei recoiled from his soot-scarred face. "Come, my lady." He guided her away, Tommen following like a reluctant shadow. Renly remained, gaze flitting from the Iron Throne to the long freezing panes where dawn edged red. "We have a lioness in a cage, a cub under our roof, and ravens from every corner clamoring for audience." He touched the sword at his hip. If you mean to crown yourself with more than smoke, we must hold court soon. Great lord's love ceremony. Stannis rubbed brow. Arrange it. I will speak truths whether they love them or no.
Renly smile bent rij.
And I will weave silken thread so their ears do not bleed. He pushed upright. One more matter. Ser Doran of Dorne offers neutrality in exchange for Myrcella's safe return. The girl sails for Sunspear presently. Let her sail, Stannis said. We hold Joffrey and Cersei. Enough lions to keep the rock docile. Renly gave a short nod, though his eyes flickered, calculating as always. That night a frost heavier than a. New York in living memory crept across the Blackwater, glazing burnt timbers until they snapped beneath their own weight. Fires had to be stoked thrice to keep sentries from freezing on the walls. In the belly of the Tower of the Hand, Melisandre knelt by a brazier of coals that glimmered red through thin white ash. She fed it a twist of paper, a page torn from an obscure Essosi chronicle of prophecy, and watched flames devour inked glyphs. Sparks shot upward like dying stars. Behind her, footsteps. Stannis. His face shone orange. You gave my daughter obsidian, he said without preamble. She asked, Melisandre replied. Ask me first when it concerns my blood. Your blood concerns the world. She rose in a whisper of silk. Have you seen the shadows stirring? Every raven brings colder tidings. The wall cannot stand alone. Stannis' shoulders sagged. I know. Then ride north. Light the fire in their darkness. Let your banners rise where hope has fled. Stannis closed eyes. Images flickered in his mind. Davos salvaging broken ships. Renly smiling among courtiers. Cersei spitting venom. I cannot leave a fledgling realm to my brother's whims. Your brother burns bright, but bright flames consume what they touch. Melisandre stepped closer, voice low. Take him north. Let him be your sword of sunlight. Together you might forge the dawn. Stannis opened eyes. Red reflected there. He'll refuse. Offer him glory. Stannis almost laughed. Such a barren sound it became gravel. He craves it like wine. Very well. I will speak to him when the northern envoys arrive. If they bear true word of this threat, we ride. The Lord's light guide you, she whispered, and for once her gaze held something like tenderness. 7 days passed before Catelyn Stark rode through the Lion Gate under banners of gray direwolf and white trout. Snow, heavier now, muted the clop of hooves, and small folk lined streets to watch. They saw the Lady of Winterfell pass with Brynden the Blackfish at her side, and behind them tall Mage Mormont armored in bare helm. Whisper swirled that winter wolves had come to sniff the stag's fortitude. In the throne room, torches fluttered. Catelyn dismounted before the dais, cloak powdered white. She looked up at Stannis, seated on the iron throne in plate chased with red enamel. At Renly, standing left in green velvets. At Davos, right in plain black. Her words echoed. My son offers peace between north and south. She unfurled a scroll. Independence within borders of the old kings of winter. Non-aggression, mutual aid against Lannister aggression. In return, he acknowledges your rule south of Moat Cailin. Stannis accepted, reading swift. He seeks formal recognition, yet offers only neutrality? Catelyn lifted chin. He offers loyalty of friendship. And the North's grain stores come spring. Renly laughed. Friendship is fine coin, but coin buys little steel. Catelyn's gaze cut him. The North forges its own steel. Enough, Stannis said. He looked at Davos, then at Melisandre lurking in shadow of a column. Lady Stark, what do you know of the dead who walk? Silence fell heavy. Catelyn's lips parted. I have heard only rumors. My younger boys dreamed such things. Your younger boys dream true, Stannis said. He spoke of Sam's dragonglass, of ravens bearing reports from Queen's Crown, of wildlings massing before an ice-blue foe. As he spoke, Renly's smile faded. Nights shifted uncomfortably. Catelyn's face tightened in alarm. If the North will march with me beyond the wall, Stannis concluded, I will grant Robb your independence. title and all sworn to join at need against the darkness. Catelyn's breath plumed white. He will want your oath in writing, and a southern host to guard his rear, Great John Umber muttered behind her. I will leave renowned knights to hold Moat Catelyn and the Neck, Stannis said. Men loyal to the crown, sworn not to cross your border save to face Lannisters. Renly spoke softly. Brother, you mean to ride north? Winter's footpads pick bones on roads there. Stannis's voice did not waver. I mean to defend the realm. The Iron Throne was never a chair for sitting idle. Renly's eyes shone with strange light. Admiration, perhaps, or envy. Then let it be sung, he said. The brothers Baratheon will carve their legend in snow and ice. Within a se'nnight preparations filled the city. Blacksmiths reforged lighter mail, sealed joints against frost. Septons blessed carts of salted hares and dried cod. Renly refitted his rainbow guard for winter travel, adding Ser Parman Crane and Ser Emyn Cuey, colors bright even under white cloaks of hair fur. He also commissioned new banners. 2 stags rampant on either flank of a white-eyed direwolf, antlers intertwined. When Davos saw them, he raised a brow. Marketing, Renly said with a wink. Ships not burned at Blackwater were caulked and loaded. Galleys would carry the host to Gulltown, then overland through the Bight, hugging coasts where roads remained passable. Tyrell grain barges accompanied, their holds stacked waist-high with barley and oat. The night before departure, Stannis walked the walls in silent inspection. Renly joined, breath frosting. Below, river ice groaned. The last time we marched together, Renly mused, we besieged a city and won a throne. Let us hope snow is kinder than wildfire. Snow kills slower, Stannis said. My point exactly. Renly leaned elbows on parapet. If I fall off my horse into a drift, dig me out before I freeze? Stannis's mouth twisted. I'll think on it. Renly laughed, then sobered. When we ride, the capital remains in my absence. I leave Ser Garland to govern with Davos. They balance stern and sweet. But Cersei, do not underestimate the lioness in chains. I won't, Stannis said. They stood together until the moon waxed full and the river cracked loud as thunder, sending shards of ice drifting like broken shields. Somewhere below, a wolf howled, distant, yet near enough to drift across frozen water. Renly shivered. Stannis listened, head cocked, as though that note carried an omen only he could parse. When dawn came, trumpets sounded. The Baratheon host filed through Lion Gate in columns of 3. Davos led the first ships downriver, masts white with hoarfrost. On the Iron Throne sat Shireen for a heartbeat, only long enough for her maids to giggle before escorting her to lessons. Grand Maester Gorman drafted charters of regency. In the skies above, ravens wheeled, startled from rookery as thousands of men cheered. And in one high window of Maegor's holdfast, Cersei Lannister watched with narrowed eyes, fingertips bloodless where they pressed the stone. She saw 2 crowned brothers ride side by side, hoofs striking sparks upon frozen cobbles, banners streaming. The wind carried Renly's laughter faint as memory. Stannis remained silent, gaze fixed north. Cersei drew a slow breath. Fire might have failed her, chains might bind her, but poison traveled where armies could not. North they rode. The rush of time became a blur of white fields, bare orchards etched against gray sky, hamlets half-buried, snow-stiffened creeks. On the King's Road small folk knelt by ditches, offering roots and thin broth in earthen bowls. Renly stopped to taste every dish, praising the cooks, bribing children with Tyrell honeycakes he carried in saddlebags. Stannis paid in coin and silence. Still, some smiled to see both stags. For a moment the realm seemed whole again. At the Trident they crossed on barges while the river roared black between jagged ice floes. Memory of Robert's war hovered there. Renly raised his spear in salute. Stannis said nothing. North of Harrenhal they met Lord Roose Bolton's outriders bearing news. Tywin Lannister had turned west, crossing the God's Eye to relieve Golden Tooth under siege by Stark outriders. Robb Stark pressed the rear, harrying supply. The war in the Riverlands had become a dance of wolves and lions with the stag's attention absent. Stannis listened, brow furrowed. "Send ravens," he told Davos. "Offer Bolton garrisons for Moat Cailin once we join with Robb. The Dreadfort's alliance cannot waver." Bolton's man left swift as wind. Renly eyed his brother. "You trust the Leech Lord?" "I trust necessity," Stannis said. Night fell. They camped amid ruins of an old sept shorn of its roof. Fires crackled. Melisandre passed among them handing flasks of pepper wine. Soldiers accepted gratefully, muttering she was half witch, half angel. Renly played at dice with his rainbow guard, laughter scattering ravens from skeletal rafters. Stannis studied maps until Davos forced him to eat salted hare. Hours later, Davos found Stannis standing alone outside camp, breath clouding. "Your Grace." Stannis's eyes reflected starlight. "I've been thinking on the prophecy. The one about Azor Ahai?" "Aye," Stannis exhaled. "Melisandre believes I am chosen. Yet if I fall, perhaps it is Renly. She speaks of kings forged in flame, but winter's steel breaks fire." He rubbed calloused palms. "When we reach the wall, I will put him to the test as well." Davos's mouth felt dry. "Renly is no man of visions. He leads with heart. Sometimes heart wins wars," Stannis admitted, a grudging concession. "Pray it wins this one." At Winterfell, the horns sounded before dawn. Bran Stark, high in the rookery, watched torches glint far off in the south, an unending line of lights across white-blanketed hills. He could hardly comprehend the size. Hodder carried him to the yard where Ser Roderick Castle marshaled garrison men, though snow clogged the yard ankle-deep. The kings arrived before noon. Renly dazzled the keep like some southern sun. He dismounted swinging, tossed a sack of oranges to maids. Stannis descended stiffly, nodded to Bran with awkward respect. In the great hall, bannermen of north and south met beneath carved direwolves. Steam rose from bowls of venison stew. Ale sloshed. Stannis set forth his plan. Unite with the Night's Watch at Castle Black, reinforce the wall, then push beyond to break the cold enemy before it amassed. He asked for Stark infantry and northern mountain clans. Bran spoke of Nightfort's collapsed gates. Meage Mormont pledged her women. Lyanna Mormont, a girl fierce as a frost wind, declared House Mormont's swords were his. Later, Bran rolled through Godswood in a chair of birch pushed by Jojen Reed. He studied the twin crowns of antler brothers kneeling before the weirwood, whispering separate prayers. Renly to the seven, Stannis to stranger fire. Snow drifted upon both, uniting them in white. Deep in Castle Black's war room, Lord Commander Mormont received the Baratheon ravens with relief near joy. Beside him, Jon Snow, recently returned from a ranging that left his sword nicked with frozen ichor, read the letters. "They come," he whispered. "They actually come."
Sam Tarly beamed.
Dolorous Ed rubbed numb hands together. "We'll need more bowls, I suppose." Mormont tapped table. "Send every crow south to guide them north. Clear the King's Road of drifts if we must shovel with bare arses." He looked to Jon. "Tell the men. Hope arrives on antlers and fury." Jon nodded, but dark clouds churned behind his eyes. The wildlings followed Mance Raider south of the wall. The others followed them still. Would the Baratheon host arrive before the ice claimed all? Across the narrow sea, in the ancient city of Karth, Daenerys Targaryen stood upon the terrace of Xaro Daxos's opulent manse, hands on warm marble balustrade. The sea beyond shimmered molten gold at sunset. At her back, Drogon curled, wings mantled. His siblings lurked among pillars like stalking cats. Dany felt the world tugging. Spies brought word of Westeros, of kings who were brothers, of wildfire that lit rivers, of wolves that howled for freedom. She closed fist around whip hilt, imagining black sails bound for Slaver's Bay, for Pentos, for Dragonstone. "I will take what is mine," she whispered to the dusk. The dragons hissed assent, and far away in King's Landing, the pits beneath the Red Keep trembled with echo, though no ear heard. When the Baratheon host finally reached the wall, Winter had tightened its grip so fiercely that men spoke of seeing breath freeze midair like ghosts. Wind scoured faces raw. Yet the torches of Castle Black shone warm as welcome when the army crested the last rise. Horns sounded thrice, the call for kings, though many still shivered at the echo of the triple blast once used for others. Jon Snow led the first delegation through the snow-choked gate. He bowed to Stannis, clasped wrists with Renly, marveled at the sheer number of gleaming helms stretching south beyond the trees. "You came," he said, voice ragged with windburn. "We did," Stannis answered. "And we bring fire." Melisandre stepped forward, eyes blazing. Light and fire, Azor Ahai reborn. She raised a torch, flame flaring bright red as blood. Jon stared, uncertain whether to feel awe or dread. Renly hoisted his helm, grin wide. "And warm furs. Gods, you crows live like hermits. Let us build fires big enough to cook a mammoth. Whatever beasts lurk out there, they'll smell our hearths and think twice." Jon smiled despite himself. "Beasts who care not for warmth, I fear." His gaze drifted north to the treeline, where the haunted forest loomed silent, snow swirling like restless spirits. Somewhere beyond lay the fist of the first men, the Frostfangs, and the shadow that ate night. In the gathering dusk, black brothers mingled with green and red cloaks, lighting braziers along the wall's base. Snow continued to fall, softening harsh lines, burying old scars. For a moment the world breathed as one. Men of 100 broken oaths united beneath falling white feathers. High above on the rampart, Stannis Baratheon set hand on cold stone and looked out upon the endless dark waste of ice and wood. Renly joined, the wind snatching loose strands of his hair. No words passed between them, none were needed. Ahead lay the final war, one neither crown nor charm could win alone. Stannis's eyes gleamed with the reflection of torches far below, Renly's with the glimmer of stars above. Behind them, Melisandre's ruby pulsed slow and steady, as if marking the heartbeat of the realm. And beyond the wall, the wind shifted, carrying faint creaks of frozen branches and the distant, impossible echo of horns older than memory, reminding all who listened that fury and fellowship alike must answer when the dead begin to sing their songs of endless night. The smoke from Castle Black's chimneys rose in brittle, twisting columns that broke apart in the high, iron-sharp wind. Below those wavering plumes, men moved like ants across the frozen courtyard, black cloaks, green mantles, red tabards, and Baratheon gold antlers all jumbled together under a sky that pressed down like a slab of lead. The wall itself loomed above them, a sheer cliff of ancient ice that devoured sound and color alike, leaving only the scritch of steel on whetstone and the rustle of sleet at its base. For many of the southern soldiers, this was the end of the world, the myth-made stone they had sworn to defend in ballads and jests but never thought to see. Now they saw, and no jest remained in any throat. Stannis Baratheon stood upon the Lord Commander's platform, gauntlet hands gripping the frost-rimmed railing as though he dared the wall to shift beneath him. A thin spill of dawn light etched the planes of his face, turning the hollows beneath his cheekbones into shadowed runes. Below, Ser Dennis Mallister's veterans drilled shoulder to shoulder with Renly's Rainbow Guard. Ser Emyn Cuey barked cadence while grenadier drums from Old Town rattled against the ice. The rhythm sounded small beneath the creaks that muttered through the glacier's heart. It felt to Stannis like mortal muscle straining against the bones of giants. Behind him came the scuff of boots. Renly arrived with snowflakes caught in his dark curls and a grin already forming. "Lord Snow sends word. The wildling scouts we captured during the night are ready to speak." He leaned on the railing, peering over the parapet as if the armies below were pieces on a Sivas board. "I wager they'll spit in our faces till they freeze solid." "They may," Stannis said, eyes never leaving the pale horizon. "But spit tells its own tale. Bring them." Renly raised an eyebrow. "Should I fetch the Red Woman as well?" "Nothing loosens tongues like burning fingers." "The flames stay banked," Stannis said, a low growl of finality. "Truth taken by torture is truth corroded. I'll not build my wall of honor on corroder's stones." He turned, cloak snapping. Fetch snow. And Davos, I want the Onion Knight's nose in the air. He can smell deceit better than any hound. Renly huffed a small laugh and complied, boots crunching back across ice-slick boards. Stannis stayed unmoving, watching as pale winter sun spilled over trackless wastes north of the wall. Somewhere out there, he knew, the others marshaled their own columns, silent phalanxes of death, marching to a music no living ear could hear. At dawn, the shapes were only suggestion. White silhouettes drifting between stands of dead pines like mist carved into men. Yet as each new report arrived, white spiders, ice hounds, hearth fires grown cold around empty armor. Suggestion hardened into certainty. He had faced wildfire on the Blackwater, green hell that ate men's screams as easily as it ate oak and rope. But even there he had heard mortal voices crying. The cold army would make no cries. His men must. Footsteps again, and Davos Seaworth shuffled beside him, wind-rimed beard stiff as straw. "Your Grace," he said, tugging gloves tight. "The Lord Commander awaits in the old frost cells. Wildling prisoners tied with hemp, no iron to steal their heat." Stannis nodded once, and they descended into the wall's guts. Torchlit corridors hewn centuries ago by axes long gone to rust, each footfall echoing like a drumbeat in a tomb. Frost grew thick on arches, turned with spars brittle. Davos tapped one with knuckles. It rang like stone. At the frost cells, torches guttered against damp. Jon Snow stood inside, black cloak heavy with hoarfrost, hands clasped at the small of his back. Two of Stannis's Queensguard flanked him, helms draped in white linen to keep steel from freezing to skin. In the center knelt the wildling captives, 3 lean figures dressed in tattered furs. Their wrists were bound, but their eyes flashed fierce and alive. "This one is Ryk the Windrider," Jon said, indicating the tallest, whose hair hung in ragged black ropes. "Scouted for Mance Raider. The woman is Fili Crow-Eater. The boy answers to Shadowpelt. Last name unknown." Ryk spat pink spit onto the flagstones. "Names enough for coffin carvers, Crow." Stannis stepped forward, boots crisp on rhymed stone. "You cross my wall, you answer my questions. Mance Raider gathers how many throats now?" "Enough to drown your southern songs," Ryk said. "We are thousands as snowflakes, king." Mockery flavored the title. Stannis's voice never lifted, but every man in the cell felt it harden like drawn steel. "And yet the dead break your lines. You flee south because the white wind follows. Tell me its measure." "The white wind has no measure," Fili muttered. Her lips were cracked, bleeding from cold. "It comes, it devours. We saw Hardhome drowned in quiet. White shadows filled streets like floodwater. Mothers clutched babes until both were ice, then rose again. We ran." Davos inhaled sharply. "Rose again. The dead serve the others," Jon said softly. "We have proof Sam killed one north of the Fist with Dragong. The bodies bring the cold with them." He met Stannis's gaze. "I've seen them, sire." Stannis studied Ryk. "You ran south, but still you sneer. Why?" "Because the wall is brittle," Ryk hissed. "Cracks run deep. When the horn of Joramun sounds, ice will fall and bury all your stone against. Then where will your thrones shine?" "Then we stand in the rubble and fight still," Stannis said. "Where is Raider now?" "Ranging for fires," Shadowpelt murmured, voice like a reed's whistle. "He means to draw the crows out, steal your frozen tower." Jon Snow frowned. "He won't find the horn. It's myth." "Some myths walk," Shadowpelt said, gaze far distant. Stannis gestured to Davos. The Onion Knight crouched and cut Shadowpelt's bonds. "You flew from the dead," Davos said, voice gentled. "Fly to us now. Show us Raider's trail. We'll break ice and bone before they reach your kin." The boy stared at the floor. Fili snarled, "He owes no crow." "Enough," Stannis snapped, and the cell quaked beneath his tone. "You will answer or you will freeze. One offers path, the other offers oblivion." He turned to Jon. Chain them in the yard near the stock fires when sun sets. Let them feel heat of comrades. Watch our forges birth obsidian arrowheads. Some hearts thaw near fire. "Aye, your grace," Jon said. He signaled guards. As they left, RYK growled after Stannis. "Even fire dies." But Stannis did not look back. That afternoon, Renly convened council in the Shield Hall, its lofty rafters sweating where braziers fought off frost. Lords of 3 realms clustered in furs. Lord Gorman Tyrell wrapped in lynx. Ser Roderick Castle marching under Winterfell's grey pelt. Bowen Marsh stiff in plain boiled leather. Melisandre in crimson silk that seemed to ripple with its own internal warmth. On a long oak table lay a splayed deer hide, inked with a rough map of northern forests. Stones marked positions. Black chips for Night's Watch, green for free folk, clear crystal shards for others' sightings, their glassy facets catching lamplight like ice. Renly rapped the hilt of his dirk against the table. "Mance Raider's host sits here." He tapped a cluster of green stones at the Milkwater. "And here along the gorge, our scouts count 30,000 at minimum, but winter thins them daily. If we punch through their flank before spring, they'll splinter. A southern charge would drive them east into shivering forest," suggested Ser Loras, sliding a stag antler token in a sweeping arc, "pin them against the sea." "Which leaves the wall's center thin," Bowen Marsh objected. "If the others test Castle Black while our strength rides east, we are lost." Renly raised a hand. "Then we split." Stannis's voice cut through, the sound of a wolf tooth scraping iron. "We do nothing until dragonglass flows like grain." "Davos." The Onion Knight stepped forward, presenting a box of black shards freshly forged. "Dragonstone's glassworks yield 400 arrowheads a day, your grace. But to arm every archer, we need 10,000. At current pace, 25 knights," Ser Courtenay Penrose supplied. 25 knights we may not have," Bowen Marsh said. "Then double the smiths," Stannis said. "Triple the fires. Burn every scrap of driftwood from Skagos to Eastwatch if needed." "And feed them with what fuel?" Renly asked, brow lifted. "Even dragons cannot breathe when the belly starves. The more we burn, the fewer watchfires come late winter." Melisandre's eyes glowed. "The Lord of Light endows faithful flame. Sacrifice draws warmth." Renly slammed a palm on the table. "I said no burnings." A hush. Snow hissed against shutters. Stannis's jaw ticked, but he inclined head.
"No burnings.
Only forges." Then to Melisandre softly, "See the forges blaze without blood." She dipped her chin, ruby throbbing as though in protest. Jon Snow cleared his throat. "Dragonglass arrowheads matter, but so too Valyrian steel. I've written to every Southron holdfast. Few blades remain forged in that art. Ice shattered. Longclaw is here, Bright Roar lost. Heart's Bane," he nodded to Gorman, "rests in Tyrell vaults." Lord Gorman blanched. "An heirloom 17 generations old." Jon's voice was steady. "A blade that may save 10,000. Before Gorman could object, Renly placed both hands on the deer hide. "Heart's Bane will ride with me." He met Gorman's shocked eyes. "A king's vow." Stannis grunted almost approvingly. "See it done." Meanwhile, the wildlings. Jon said, "If we parley, some may fight with us. They fear the dead worse than they hate crows." "A rash wager," Bowen muttered. "Yet perhaps our only," Stannis concluded. Renly ride at first light with Snow and Davos. Head a party under peace banners. Offer amnesty to raiders' clans in exchange for fealty till winter breaks. Renly's grin flashed. "I do enjoy a bit of persuasion." "Very well, but I'll need gold dragons to sweeten the pot." "You'll take barrels of salt beef," Stannis said. "They'll starve before they spend coin." Renly shrugged, amusement dancing in hazel eyes. Kings may differ on currency. The council adjourned beneath a cloud of cold breath, each lord carrying fresh orders. Yet Melisandre lingered, fingertips brushing the clear ice shard markers, eyes afar. When only Stannis remained, she murmured, "Your brother shines as torchlight, bright, brief. Keep him close. Shadows lengthen. Stand aside. A sound scraped from stone. Do your flames show his death? They show possibility, she answered. And possibility is the Lord's language. She turned away, ruby pulsing like a slow drumbeat. Dawn rose in a crimson smear atop the wall's rim, and Renly's parley train set out through the north gate. Steel-rimmed sledges creaked beneath loads of salt pork, black bread, and casks of weak beer. Jon Snow rode Ghost, white direwolf padding silent ahead. Davos trailed on a shaggy Garen, hood up. 10 rainbow guards glittered like stained glass against the snow, their enamel sigils dulled by rime. At their center rode Renly on the destrier Allspice, wearing Heartsbane strapped across his back in a harness newly sewn by Winterfell's leatherworkers. Each step of Allspice's hooves shattered ice flowers that had formed overnight on the King's Road's neglected stones. They advanced into the haunted forest where pines bent under powdered burdens, trunks black as burned bone. Silence thickened as distance from the wall grew. Even the horses stopped snorting, breath pluming wide. Renly broke quiet by humming a riverland's drinking song, each verse softer until it faded altogether. Around midday, they met the first signs of free folk. A string of gutted rabbits dangling from a branch, still bleeding into snow. Prints of hide boots spaced wide as if runner carried messages. Jon dismounted, touched a print. Running from east, he whispered, toward the division ridge. We follow. They pressed on. Snow deepened to the horses' knees, then to their chests. At last, just as ghosts of dusk began slithering between trees, they saw smoke curling over a ridge, a lonely campfire. Jon raised a gloved hand, signaling halt, then advanced alone with Ghost ghosting beside. Mance Rayder awaited atop the ridge on a rock tumbled half-free of ice. He wore a cloak patchworked from 100 scavenged fabrics. Karstark wool, Dornish linen, Lannister crimson, even scraps of Tyrell green. At his belt hung a lute weathered by frost. He did not reach for sword when Jon climbed the slope. Instead, he pulled a wooden flute from tunic and played 3 soft notes. Invitation, not warning. Jon inclined head. You know why I've come. 1 crow, 1 wolf, 10 pretty birds. I know, Mance said. His eyes flicked to Renly's column below. Southron kings grow numerous these days. 1 less now, Renly called up, coaxing Allspice up the incline. United stags and wolves against a colder crown than any of ours. He halted several paces away. Mance Rayder, I presume? I am King Renly Baratheon, trueborn son of Steffan, brother to Stannis of Storm's End. I offer bread, salt, and safe conduct. Mance's smile creased weather-tough skin. Southerners love titles. He turned back to Jon. Does your brother King trust this one? I trust his sword and his heart, Jon said. The latter's rarer, Mance mused. He lowered flute. What bargain? Renly gestured Davos forward. The Onion Knight hefted a cloth-wrapped bundle, laid it on snow, unwrapped salted beef steaming faintly, black bread loaves, and a small iron box. Inside, obsidian arrowheads shining like frozen night. Food for your folk, Davos said. And weapons to kill what hunts us all. Mance's gaze lingered on the arrowheads, respect flickering. Dragonglass, caves at Frostfang's hold seams, but hard to mine in this rot. He folded arms. And the price? Swear your tribes to King Stannis until the others break, Renly said. Furnish 1,000 spears for the vanguard. Tell us the dead's paths. Afterward, you cross the wall free, settle new gift under watch.
No kneeling, no chance.
A stir ran through wildling pickets halfway down the ridge. 3 dozen watchers blended among trees, bows strung. Mance lifted chin, calling in old tongue. They answered with guttural buzz. He faced Renly. Many of my folk would take this pact. Many would not. I'll not break them to your king's will. Renly shrugged. Break them or bury them. Winter cares little. Mance chuckled. True. Yet Southrons forgot how to share snow. He closed box of dragonglass. I'll speak with my Tormund, my Harma Dogshed, my giants. If half agree, that's 5,000 spears. Enough. It must be, Renly said. We march within Moon's fortnight. Mance's expression tightened. The dead march now. Last night we lost 3 clans at Snowmelt Creek. They didn't scream. They simply stopped breathing. His eyes held Jon's. Tell your Stannis. The White King's scouts wear faces of men we once knew. Jon swallowed. We'll be ready. Mance slid down the ridge, leaving the food bundle. Snow devoured his tracks quickly. Renly exhaled, a plume of ice. Well, better than spit. He clapped Jon's shoulder. Back to the wall. Hearths await. Back at Castle Black, Melisandre oversaw the forging pits carved in ice caves beneath the rampart's lee. There, dwarfish flames sputtered blue and fierce, fueled by pitch, oil, and bundles of dried blasted pine ferried from the Night Fort ruins. Smiths from Dragonstone hammered molten obsidian poured into sand molds shaped like arrowheads, daggers, spear points. Sparks flew against cave walls, hissing where they struck ice to steam. Shireen Baratheon arrived with a basket of black potatoes for workers, grayscale cheek flushed from cold. She watched molten glass glow red, then orange, then brittle black. Melisandre knelt to her. The glass remembers dragon flame, she said. It will drink cold fire and quench it. Shireen fingered the shard at her neck. Will father return soon? When dawn comes, Melisandre promised. He rides with Bright Brother and Dark Wolf, all swords of men. Shireen's gray-stiff lips smiled. Then I'll wait by the rampart with books. She hurried off, leaving small prints in powdered snow. Melisandre's gaze lingered. In the fires she saw Shireen bathed in light. A child standing before a wall of endless night, shard raised like torch. Fire glinted on her grayscale cheek, turning stone to gem. Prophecy coiled around the vision, but the future writhed when touched. Certainty fled. She rose, robe swirling, and whispered to the flames. Azor Ahai comes. Whether by iron or ash, the dawn must burn. Night fell silver and silent. In the king's chambers, Stannis and Renly broke bread alone. A single candle illuminated the simple table. Black bread baked with dried onion, a jug of northern ale, a pot of twisted roots boiled tender. Stannis ate in exact bites. Renly teased crust apart absent-mindedly. At hard home, Renly said eventually, gaze lost in candle flame. They say the water froze mid-wave, turned to jagged glass before it could crash. Did you know? I heard. Stannis tore another piece. Renly shuddered. I used to fear storms. Now I fear calm nights more. He looked up. When this is done, and all the icy bastards melted, what then? You'll sit your throne? Tax the reach. Stannis chewed, swallowed. Rebuild fleets. Feed the realm. And me? You? You will govern the Stormlands as you once begged. Renly laughed softly. I begged for father's approval. Different coin. He tipped his cup. Perhaps I'll return to High Garden. Let Garland grow vines. Stannis' eyes softened one notch. The realm may still need your brightness. Renly inclined head. Spoken like a brother. Mark the date. Stannis almost smiled. Then the door banged wide and Ser Loras burst in. Helm clutched. Sire, the wall's east tunnel is breached. Rangers report dead men walking. His chest heaved. Stannis rose at once. How many? Scouts say 100, maybe more. They come beneath the moon, straight for the gate. Renly pushed up. Sound the bells. They reached the yard within heartbeats. Horns already brayed, their echoes shivering along the wall. Black brothers scrambled to towers. Flame pits roared to life, belching sparks into star-pinned sky. Across the clearing, the massive timbered east gate boomed under hasty crossbars. Beyond it, snow hush. Davos sprinted from steps. Sire, the wind changes. Feel. He held gloved palm up. Frost gathered like dust. Renly unslung Heartsbane. The Valyrian blade glinted gray-blue, ancient ripples ghosting along edges. He looked to Stannis, who nodded once. Permission, farewell, unspoken love. Rainbow guard with me, Renly shouted. racing toward the top of the east parapet. Jon Snow appeared, Longclaw naked in pale fist. They climbed together, boots hammering ice steps. From the parapet, they saw shapes moving beyond the gate. Pale figures shuffling through blowing snow, eyes dim blue lanterns. 500 yards, closer. Ghost growled low beside Jon, hackles bristling. Renly raised Heartsbane, voice carrying. Archers, flaming shafts. Hundreds of bowstrings groaned. Stannis below gave the order. Black-fletched fire bolts rose in a fiery storm, arcing over the gate, raining onto the field. Where arrows struck, bodies kindled blue-green and collapsed into formless slush. Yet still more pressed forward, mindless of flame. Obsidian, Jon barked. Rangers knocked newly forged black glass heads. Another volley sang. Shards shattered white flesh. Each hit burst dead men into shards of hoarfrost. But always there were more. And then taller shapes emerged, white as moonstone, armored in icy mail that glimmered like cut diamond. Their eyes blazed starbright. One raised a sword thin as hoarfrost and pointed at the gate. A scream of cold ripped across the night, and the timber spun white, creaking as frost ate deep. Renly felt the cold lance his marrow. 7 save us. Aim for the others, Jon shouted. Break the masters, the dead will fall. Archers answered. Arrows clattered off crystalline mail, obsidian heads shattering like glass upon stone. The other stepped lightly, sword tracing lazy arcs that deflected missiles with impossible grace. Not arrows, Jon muttered. Blades. Renly clenched Heartsbane. Open the man gate. He met Jon's eyes. You and I. Jon's breath plumed pale but steady. Ghost with us. The man gate, a narrow postern, opened with a groan. 3 figures stepped into the dark. A king clad in emerald velvet and black fur, a bastard cloaked in crowblack, a direwolf white as first snow. Behind them thundered a handful of Baratheon knights and Night's Watch hard men carrying dragonglass spears. But the first charge was theirs. They sprinted across moonlit ice. Dead men turned at their approach, shrieking mindlessly. Ghost launched, jaws closing around a blue-lit throat. Powdery ice exploded. Jon's long claw severed an arm, then carved through a walking corpse's spine. The body shattered like porcelain. Renly met the first other head-on. Heartsbane sang as it clashed with the ice sword. Sparks of pale fire spat where Valyrian rippled against frozen crystal. The shock numbed his arms, but he pressed, laughter as wild as summer storms ripping from his throat. Around them, spearmen skewered dead men, obsidian dissolving corpses into vapor. The other parried, sliding aside with dancer's grace. Its expressionless face tilted, studying Renly. Then it drove forward with whip-quick thrusts, each one chill enough to crack bone. Renly retreated step by step until boots slipped on ice. The other raised blade for the killing stroke. Jon intercepted, Longclaw meeting crystal. Valyrian rang like bell chimes at shiver pitch, and the other's sword quivered, frost spider-webbing across its length. The creature hissed, stepping back. Renly found footing, joined, Heartsbane thrusting low. Twin Valyrian fangs licked at the white armor. Under their combined assault, cracks spread. With a final overhead blow, Jon drove Longclaw straight down. The other raised parry. At the same instant, Renly swept Heartsbane across its waist. Steel met crystal in crossing arcs. The other's sword snapped with tinkling shriek, torso sheared through. For a heartbeat, it seemed to float in shards of diamond dust. Then it collapsed, disintegrating into drifting snow motes caught by faint wind. Across the field, remaining dead men convulsed. Some toppled, limbs slack. Others wailed, blue fire guttering from sockets before winking out. Silence washed over like falling cloth. Renly leaned on Heartsbane, chest heaving fog, staring at the melting drift where the other had stood. Jon wiped Longclaw on the snow, ghostly white under stars. 7, Renly breathed. So that's 1. There'll be more, Jon said. Behind them, the east gate creaked open. Stannis emerged, obsidian-tipped war hammer in hand, Davos at his side. Soldiers filed out, dragging bodies to pyres already blazing. Renly lifted a gauntlet, greeting. Stannis' eyes flicked briefly to the scattered ice dust, then to his brother's flushed, exhilarated face. A ghost of pride touched his weather-sawn features. That night passed with no second assault. Fires roared along the wall, smoke joining faint aurora that rippled northward like shreds of emerald silk. Men slept in armor, swords beneath blankets. Some dreamed of summer fields, others of silent glaciers swallowing moons. For days afterward, word came that Mance Rayder's vote had been cast. 6 of 10 wildling chieftains agreed to the Baratheon Pact. On the 12th day, Tormund Giantsbane arrived at Castle Black beneath white banners stitched from mammoth hide, leading 12 giants, 200 thens, and ragged clans from Icetooth Valley. They marched through the gate to gaping silence, giants stooping under stone lintels, then warriors gazing hard past watchfires. But they brought reindeer carcasses, furs, and obsidian knives of their own. Jon met Tormund with a warm clasp. Renly gifted him a green silk mantle embroidered with dancing stags. The giant men roared laughter until tears froze on their beards. On the 14th day, ravens fluttered from Riverrun. Tywin Lannister had broken camp at Castamere, turning south again with 40,000, banners red lion on gold. Cersei Lannister escaped Maegor's cell, poisoned a guard, vanished into night, and in the city of Meereen, a queen of dragons crucified slavers, freeing 80,000. Stannis read these tidings by torchlight atop the wall. Renly joined once more, shoulders brushing. Snow drifted in lazy spirals around them. The realm fractures, Stannis said. One war ends, and sprout anew. Renly's breath fogged soft. Wars end and sprout like weeds, yet weeds may flower. Stannis tilted chin toward black horizon. If we survive this night, all else is harvest. He exhaled, steam curling. You fought well at the gate. Renly's grin glinted. I did, didn't I? Perhaps the Red Woman will see a hero in her flames. Her visions bend like willow. Stannis' voice softened. But some truths shine bright. You are my brother. Renly blinked. A simple sentence. He held out a gauntlet hand. And worth more than any crown. Stannis clasped it, leather creaking. For a moment the wall felt less cold. Far beneath, a horn blew once, ranger returning. Twice, wildlings in sight. Then thrice, once more thrice. The call for others. The note shuddered through ice, through marrow. Torches flared alive. Bells rang clean. Stannis released Renly's hand, pulled helm on. To arms. Renly drew Heartsbane. Side by side. They descended into the storm of noise, a storm soon to be drowned by a greater, silent storm cresting beyond the treeline. An ocean of pallid figures and cold fire, rolling inexorable toward the wall. The final war had begun, and whether dawn awaited on its far edge none could say. Yet as the twin stags took their place upon the ramparts, steel and obsidian ready, men on both sides of the wall felt something stir. A spark of furious fellowship, bright against the dark, daring the long night to swallow it. And somewhere south, across half a world, a queen's dragons beat thunder from the sky, while in Riverrun a wolf king sharpened steel, and in the frost-hushed crypts of Winterfell, ancient kings of winter listened, waiting to know whether stone or snow would rule the age to come. Whispers of glass-brittle wind threaded the gaps between the wall's ice-blue teeth, carrying with them the faintest scent of pine pitch and blood. Torches guttered along the ramparts, their flames shivering beneath an aurora that rolled in ribbons of emerald and amethyst across the star-salt sky. Though dawn lurked 2 hours distant, the garrison of Castle Black churned as though midday. Smiths hammering obsidian spearheads in the forge caves, stewards ladling onion broth into wooden bowls, giants lumbering under bales of charcoal while then warriors chanted frost-edged oaths. In every corner of the keep the battered hearts of men and women thumped a single cadence. Prepare, prepare, prepare. Within the Lord Commander's solar, Jon Snow bent over a parchment map pinned beneath daggers, marking fresh sightings with drops of soot ink. A dozen black feathers circled the drawn frostfangs like carrion crows. Glass shards represented slain others, A smear of crimson wax pinned at the milkwater showed where Raiders' vanguard now camped, waiting. Around the table stood Renly Baratheon in sable-trimmed velour, Davos Seaworth smelling of forged smoke, Tormund Giantsbane rolling a mangled rabbit's foot between calloused fingers, and Vale, the wildling princess, her moon-white hair braided with crow feathers. When Jon scratched the final mark, an arrow stabbing toward the Skirling Pass, he lifted weary eyes. "Scouts say the dead marshal near the high saddle," he said, voice as raw as raven's wings. "If they pour through at first light, they'll flank both the gorge and Castle Black. We cannot hold two walls." Renly's knuckles whitened on the table edge. "Then we strike first. Meet them in the saddle before they crest." He flashed a grin bright as lantern light. "Cold bothers dead men less, but advantage of ground is no small purse." Davos shook his head. "Steep paths of the saddle will grind horses to lather. Infantry will climb single file. We'd serve ourselves on spits." Tormund snorted. "Let giants climb. Dead bones crack same as live when mammoth's tusk rolls 'em." Val's voice cut the rumble, cool as winter mist. "Giants alone cannot stem that tide. Your fire arrows and dragonglass matter, yet only if loosed all at once. Scatter our strength and we bleed." Jon tapped the red wax. "What if we bait the dead into the gorge itself? Force them down the ravine where light is poor and slopes sheer. Our archers line both ridges, pour obsidian hail. Giants and horse under Stannis strike their rear, drive them forward. A hammer and anvil of flame and frost." Renly's smile sharpened. "And I ride the center to split them when they break." "You will hold the center," Stannis said from the doorway, voice like hoarfrost cracking oak. All turned. He advanced, armor cased in white rime, gorget stamped with the crown stag, warhammer of dragonglass spiked steel resting across one shoulder. "The dead will not break for a charge alone. They require fear. We give them fear by cutting off their masters." He placed a splinter of black crystal upon the map, dead center of the saddle. "Reports describe 3 white kings, commanders of ice. Slay them, and their thralls will crumble. Snow's gorge plan stands, but we strike deeper. While the gorge devours whites, a viper team crosses the ridge unseen, finds the kings, ends them." Renly raised an eyebrow. "Viper team? Small, fast, armed with Valyrian and obsidian." Stannis fixed on Jon. "You, Snow, will lead. Longclaw drinks cold fire once. Let it drink again."
Jon's gut clenched.
"A boon I'll not refuse. Who else?" "Brienne of Tarth," Renly said without pause. "She moves like thunder on snowshoes." "And me?" Melisandre breathed, materializing beside the brazier. Cloak of shadow silk flowed behind, ruby pulsing. "Flame walks where I tread. The others will shy before light." Renly's jaw set hard.
"No."
"You walk behind our line. Men's courage falters when they see sorcery." Stannis's gaze flicked between brother and priestess. "She remains. Fire may thwart cold." Jon looked to Davos, found guarded approval in the knight's sea-gray eyes. Then he nodded. "We depart 4 hours past moonset. I want snowshoes fitted, camouflaged cloaks, no metal buckles. Silent as falling ash." "Ghost comes," growled the dire wolf as if understanding. Jon scratched his white ruff. "You'll scout ahead." Tormund slapped Jon's shoulder with a bear's strength. "Sneak work belongs to little men. I'll roar down gorge with my giants. Sing you a victory song after."
Val Bovets Hallov.
"I will guide your scouts through the pines. I know ghost paths the dead forget." Renly clapped hands. "Then we have our dance." He flashed Heartsbane from scabbard, Valyrian steel shimmering dully under lantern glow. "Make ready." Snow whispered down with a hush so soft it felt like the world holding breath. Jon's Viper team departed under that hush, slipping through the north gate where watchfires burned low to hide their silhouettes. Ghost bounded ahead, paused soundless. Brienne followed, 7 feet of silent storm in boiled leather camouflaged with chalk dust. Behind her padded Melisandre, bare arms despite the cold, Ruby glowing like a coal caged in translucent flesh. 5 rangers chosen for stealth carried obsidian hatchets. 2 wildling spearwives crept with bows. They moved across a basin of moon-powdered snow toward the serrated silhouette of the saddle. Pines loomed as inkbrush strokes. Beyond, faint flickers of azure. Eyes of whites shifting under tree eaves. Drew John's breath sharp. He signed halt. The company dropped to knees. Ghosts slunk left, vanishing. Minutes passed measured by heartbeats. Then an unearthly screech cleaved the stillness, slicing marrow. A white elk erupted from the treeline, half its ribcage exposed, antlers scoring air. Behind it galloped 5 dead tribesmen, sinews taut, eyes blazing star-cold. They did not see the cloaked shapes crouched in snow until the first took Brienne's dragonglass knife through its jaw. The corpse exploded into powder. Shards glittered like shattered moonlight. John severed a second spine. Twin rangers felled 2 more. Melisandre exhaled a word in Valyrian. Red flame spurted from her palm to engulf the last, which melted as wax. Silence returned, punctured only by the elk's ragged breath before it tottered and collapsed, blood steaming in the snow. Ghost trotted back, muzzle crimson. "Path is fouler than we thought," Brienne murmured. "Good," Jon said. "Means we're closer." They pressed on, weaving through ravines veined with ice-slick roots. Twice they crossed lines of half-buried bones. Wildling children, perhaps, given ragdolls clutched in frost-burned fingers. Each time Melisandre whispered a prayer to Lawler, and the ruby glowed hotter. Just before first blush of gray touched eastern stars, they climbed the saddle's knife-back ridge. Wind howled there, driving snow into razored sheets. The world below muted into swirling white. Ahead, upon a plateau ringed by standing stones of black basalt, 3 others waited. Tall as nightmares, mail forged of glacier facets, hair a pale spilling mist that drifted like banners in unfelt breeze. Their swords hummed, a music of yearning ice. Around them knelt a dozen wights motionless as statues. Jon felt Longclaw vibrate in scabbard, as if the steel yearned too. He unsheathed, signaled the others fan left and right. Melisandre lifted a fist swirling with living flame. She whispered to the ruby, and her hand ignited in white-hot falcon wings. One of the others turned its head, eyes blazing like twin moons eclipsed by frost. It spoke. No human words, but a resonance that shook snow from branches 50 yards off. The whites surged. Ghost met them first, jaws snapping through brittle necks. Obsidian hatchets rose and fell, yet more advanced. 30, 40, each step stirring diamond dust. Brienne dropped low, sweeping her broad dragonglass blade in wide arcs. Jon darted through the melee, arrows whistling by from spearwives behind. In the midst of chaos, Melisandre strode, fire swirling about her wrists like serpents. She hurled a ribbon of flame. Whites burst in cascading infernos. Snow hissed to liquid under her footfalls. She closed on the first other, flame in one hand, a shard of light in the other, dragonglass tempered in temple fires. The other raised crystal sword. The Valyrian fire shard met it. Both weapons shrieked, a discord beyond mortal pitch. Sparks spiraled violet. The other thrust. Melisandre twisted aside, cloak smoking. She retaliated with open palm. Flame splashed against the creature's cuirass, melting it round a heartbeat before refreezing. Jon reached the circle of stones. The second other barred his path. Its sword came down in a blur. Longclaw parried. Ice met Valyrian, ringing like clock bells. Shock numbed Jon's arms. He spun, used the blade's heavy pommel to crack the creature's wrist. It staggered. Jon thrust upward, piercing under its chin. For an instant the world seemed to inhale. Then the other shattered, shards scattering, thin wails riding the wind. The third other sprang upon Brienne, who blocked the first slash with dragonglass edge, but the ice blade notched her shoulder plate, slicing leather, flesh. Blood spurted black in moon hue, steaming. Brienne roared, surging forward with brute ferocity. She locked swords cross-hilt, muscles bulging. Snowground cracked under their feet. Suddenly Val the spearwife loosed an obsidian arrow, whip-snap into the other's temple. It froze as crystal fracturing, eyes flickering, then collapsed inward to dust. Only the first remained, locked with Melisandre. Flames wreathed them both, red and blue swirling in a dance of destiny. Melisandre's hair flamed copper, braid uncoiling in wind. She whispered a name older than tongues. Her ruby burst with radiance. The fire shaped itself into a sword of living fire, longer than a man's arms. With a single arc, she cleaved the Ice King from crown to groin. A shrieked explosion of rime glass. The standing stones glowed red for a breath before cracking. The remaining wights, bereft of command, faltered, fell. Silence swallowed the plateau, broken only by the hiss of snow upon Melisandre's fading flame. Jon knelt by Brienne, binding her wound with first strip soaked in sourleaf salve. She grunted, eyes fierce. A scratch.
Val retrieved a rovshats.
Ghost sniffed at drifting shards. Melisandre extinguished the fire with a closing fist. When she turned, her lips were blistered, ruby dimmed, yet triumph shone in her gaze. The night redraws its lines. Jon scanned the horizon. Dawn's first gold tinged clouds eastward. We must signal. A ranger unfurled a crimson streamer laced with black glass pieces. He angled it west, reflecting first light down the ridge. Far below, in the gorge, armies clashed, fires glimmering like embers on a sea of shadow. The flaring streamer winked thrice. The gorge battle had begun hours before. Stannis commanded center atop a rise of broken shale, warhammer dripping frozen gore. Giants wielded trees as clubs. Wildling spearmen thrust dragonglass pikes into ranks of shambling dead. Tyrell archers on South Ridge loosed burning shafts in staggering volleys, each arrowhead bursting in red petals across white lines. Renly wove through with Heartsbane, rallying faltering columns with carols of easy laughter. Suddenly the sky above them shifted. A ripple of aurora convulsed, colors guttering. All across the battlefield, whites jerked, limbs stiffening. Some toppled, inert, others spun, lost. A roar climbed the gorge as living soldiers realized they had broken the command chain. Renly spurred Allspice, sword raised high. "Stag and wolf!" he cried, voice ringing from cliff walls. "Drive them to ash!" Columns surged. Giants bellowed. Stannis signaled Davos to release the cart sleds. Kegs of pitch and oil rolled downhill, smashing into motionless piles of dead. Flaming arrows followed. The gorge erupted in curtains of green-red fire. Snow and smoke spiraled into storm-dark sky. When the last echoes faded, a hush settled. Broken ice cracking, distant wolf howl. Survivors stood among heaps of steaming meltwater and half-collapsed corpses. Dawn's gold spilled into the gorge, painting every face in solemn wonder. Stannis dismounted, scanning for Renly. He found his brother kneeling beside a fallen knight, helm removed. Ser Emin throat torn. Renly pressed 2 fingers to closed lids, whispering something lost to wind. Stannis approached, laid a hand on Renly's pauldron. The younger man rose, eyes bright but unwept. They clasped forearms, silent. Trumpets echoed from the ridge. Jon's Viper team descended, leading Ghost and carrying a cape woven of frostbright shards, the shattered remnants of an other's mail. Jon's cloak was clawed but whole. Brienne's bandage bled through, but she walked unbowed. Melisandre's ruby glimmered faint. She met Stannis's gaze and inclined head. "It is done," she said, "but not ended." Stannis surveyed the battlefield, thousands of dead, but his army stood. "Nothing ends," he said. "We march north again tonight. We burn every corpse. We find the rest." Renly gripped Heartsbane. "But first, let the men breathe, if only the ice in their lungs." Through that day, pyres leapt high, feeding dawn and dusk alike. Wildlings and crows labored side by side, stacking dead whites, pouring pitch. The air reeked of burning rot and pine resin. Men sang dirges for those who fell, Giants carved runes upon stones marking where brave cousins lay. Stannis convened council at mid-morning. Raiders' 5,000 spears would hold the high ridges. Night's Watch and Baratheon infantry fortified the gorge with stakes and trenches. Renly rode south with Davos and Tormund to recover stragglers. In the library beneath the King's Tower, Maester Aemon, eyes milky but mind still keen, listened to Shireen read from the Jade Compendium. Her small voice trembled on exotic Valyrian glyphs. When she paused, Aemon touched her scarred cheek gently. "Dragons stir," he murmured. "The world weds ice and fire once more, and you, child, sit at their hearth." Shireen did not fully grasp, yet she smiled shyly and turned the page. That night, as a waning moon bled silver on mended ramparts, Renly sat with Brienne atop the King's Tower turret. He offered her a cup of mulled wine cooled to slush. She accepted, wincing at shoulder pain. Below them, the wall shimmered ghost blue. They spoke little, words spent on screams and commands. Finally, Renly asked, "Did you fear?" She considered. "I feared failing you." He touched her gauntlet hand. "You never will." For an instant, the world seemed to hush, as if listening. Then he smiled crooked. "Besides, you terrify the dead more than they us." Brienne huffed something like a laugh. They watched Ghost trot along rampart, a spectral sentinel. On the 17th day of siege, ravens brought word from Eastwatch. A fleet of Braavosi cogs had reached harbor, fleeing frozen seas. They carried merchants of the Iron Bank, seeking audience with a king who fought winter incarnate. Stannis forbade them in trance until quarantine cleared. Plague traveled swift in desperation. But the message was clear. The world watched. The same dawn, a fiery brand streaked overhead, celestial stone igniting in low atmosphere. It flared turquoise, then crimson, before vanishing behind jagged peaks. Melisandre tracked its trail with rapt attention. That night she brewed flame wine for Stannis only, whispering that the stone heralded a turning. He drank, felt heat bloom in ribs. Dreams took him. A child with a half-stone face holding a sword of dawnlight. A dragon shadow spreading wings across a snowy field. A stag of ice lowering crystal antlers at him while a burning lion circled. He woke gasping, hammer at hand. Outside, snow fell in strangled flakes, large as raven wings, until the ground disappeared. Snowstorm clamped upon the wall for 3 days. Fires dwindled, rations halved. Men spoke in hushed tones about the frozen stag. Some claimed to see figures in swirling white beyond ramparts, tall and silent. On the 4th dawn, the storm broke. In the bloodless calm that followed, scouts returned with dire news. Tywin Lannister's southward march had stalled, his columns buried under sudden blizzards across the neck. Hundreds froze. Some whispered the storm walked on 2 crystal legs. Stannis listened, brow furrowed. Winter fights on every front now. We cannot hold only here. Renly suggested, send riders to the Dreadfort and Last Hearth. Rally every Hearth Knight. If the storm marches, they flank it. Stannis nodded. And ravens to Dragonstone. Summon Queen Celis with the fleet. Supplies, grain, archers. Have her sail to White Harbor. Davos cleared throat. My lord, if Tywin freezes, Casterly Rock stands near undefended. Renly smirked. Perhaps our new wildling friends might like Lannister gold mines. Stannis ignored the joke. First, the wall. The realm's neck is here. Cut it, and gold's color matters little. Jon Snow agreed, but his eyes smoldered. He longed for Winterfell, for his siblings. Yet he stayed. At dusk on the 21st day, rangers patrolling the gorge's north mouth vanished. Only their horses returned, eyes milky white. Stannis ordered full muster before ramparts. Renly joined, Heartsbane strapped across chest, new embossed pauldron covering healed shoulder. Brienne carried a long-hafted glaive of black glass studded with ruby chips, Melisandre's gift. Jon hefted Longclaw. Tormund bore a frostwolf pelt over naked torso, chalk designs smeared on skin that steamed with heat of giant bone mead. Silence thickened as twilight deepened. Then, on the valley floor, shapes emerged, First dozens, then hundreds, not whites. Living men in patchwork furs beneath banners of flayed man and weeping woman. At their center rode a tall figure cloaked in saddle-whitened fox, the bastard of Bolton. Ramsay held Hig. A banner of pale blue with a pink man flayed. At his side, a maester staff bearing a raven cage. Jon's grip whitened. Traitor, Ramsay's voice floated up. King Stannis, you steal wildlings, you steal crowns, but you cannot steal what is owed. The North remembers, and the Boltons collect. He gestured. Cages were unveiled. Within, 2 half-frozen rangers knelt, tongues removed. You fight snow ghosts, I fight treason. Yield moat Catelyn, or I march with 20,000. Renly chuckled darkly. 20,000 frost-bitten turncloaks. Stannis called down. Withdraw your wolves. You march beneath the banner of a corpse. The living realm unites against a deadlier foe. I march where I will. Ramsay's smile glinted. And I bring a gift. He drew a knife, slit the throats of both prisoners. Blood steamed. Fresh paint for my banner. A collective snarl rose from the rampart. Arrows knocked. Stannis lifted fist, hold. His eyes matched the wall's chill. Bolton, you commit murder under parley. Your house is forfeit. Ride now, and I'll only take your head. Ramsay bowed in saddle. Catch me first. He wheeled. His men filed back into snow mist. Renly's jaw flexed. We ride. No, Stannis said. He baited us. The dead linger still. We guard the gorge.
Von Sdalovet bile.
And let him slay any rangers south? We will answer him later. Melisandre stepped forward. The bastard's blood stains light. She lifted palm at the sky. But the night grows restless. Listen. A distant groan rolled across snow plain, like glaciers grinding. Along the valley's north rim, black silhouettes rose, wave upon wave. Thousands. Blue eyes ignited. The dead returned. Ramsay had drawn them. Steel rasped across ramparts as archers leveled bows. Giants formed shield wall of oak trunks. On the parapet, Stannis raised his hammer, the dragonglass spikes catching first blue glints. Hold, he roared, voice wedded to thunder. Hold for dawn. Renly leapt onto battlement stone, sword uplifted, silhouette framed by wavering aurora. Stags, wolves, free men, let winter hear your fury. A cheer tore the night, raw and wild, echoing off the miles of ice. And the battle was joined once more, steel and obsidian, singing the eternal hymn of life's defiance. Flames leapt, arrows screamed, giants roared, direwolves lunged, and somewhere above it all the aurora rippled, as though the sky itself watched the fragile spark of humankind burning against the endless dark. Far to the south, on a terrace of pale marble in Meereen, Daenerys Targaryen stood between Drogon's folded wings, staring northward as if she, too, could hear that spark crackle. Soon, she whispered, fingers stroking rough scales. The black dragon lifted its head, nostrils flaring. Flames danced behind deep red eyes. Across the sea, a lion in golden armor shivered under a snow blanket he had not imagined. And in Riverrun, a wolf king signed dispatches pledging riders clad in gray to answer the call of dawn. Kingdoms shifted, destiny coiled tighter, and on the wall, where stags and wolves and free folk fought shoulder to shoulder, the long night crashed in another wave. Yet each sword that flashed, each torch that flared, declared in ringing defiance that darkness, however ancient, would find no easy feast while hearts still burned.